woke up to the sound of my neighbor's dog barking, and I already knew something was off. That dog, Moose, barked every morning at 6, but today he sounded like he'd been howling for hours, voice cracked and desperate. I checked my phone out of habit, but the screen just glowed. No new texts, no news, just a spinning wheel like the world was buffering. That's when the weirdness started. But I didn't get scared, not yet. I live in a small apartment outside Louisville, Kentucky. 3rd floor, old carpet, walls thin enough to hear everything. My name's Jake. 28, work from home, mostly answering angry emails for a health insurance company, which is as exciting as it sounds. I've got a coffee addiction, a bad habit of scrolling doom on Twitter, and a half-hearted routine of texting my mom every most mornings. I get up, nuke a burrito, listen to Moose bark at delivery trucks, and stare out the window at the same gray parking lot. Today, the parking lot was already different. There was a military van parked across 2 spaces, white letters stenciled on the side, guys in camo uniforms inside, just sitting, not moving, not looking at their phones, not laughing, just sitting. That van had never been there before, not in all the years I'd lived here. Next to it, a sedan with the driver's door open. I squinted and saw a splash of something dark on the concrete. It looked like coffee at first. Then I realized it was too red, too thick. I kept telling myself it was ketchup, or maybe just a spilled drink, but that was a lie I wanted to believe. By 8, people were acting weird. In the lobby, Mrs. Wexler, who always gossips about everyone, was just standing there in her pink robe, staring out the glass like she was waiting for something. She didn't even answer when I said good morning. I heard more coughing than usual, harsh, ugly coughs echoing up the stairwell. The air smelled different too, not quite rotten, but close, like old pennies and sweat. I tried to text my buddy Eric, who lives 1 floor down. Usually he's up at this hour, talking about fantasy football or bitching about his ex, but nothing came through. I switched the TV on for background noise, expecting the same boring morning shows, but every channel was local news. One anchor's voice was trembling. "Remain calm and stay indoors," she said, over and over, even when the footage cut to traffic cams that showed empty highways and police tape everywhere. My phone buzzed with a government alert. Emergency. Shelter in place. Lock all doors and windows. Do not attempt to leave. This is not a drill. I laughed a little. The kind of nervous laugh you make when you're not sure if you're the only one freaking out. I opened the blinds. The military van was still there, but now the guys were standing outside, blocking the entrance, rifles slung low. A woman was crying on the sidewalk, screaming for someone named Tony. Nobody helped her. People were peeking through their curtains, all pretending they weren't looking. My phone started acting up. First, the signal dropped to 0. Then, random calls from numbers I didn't know. I answered one and heard only static, like someone breathing into the line. I tried to call my mom. It didn't even ring. I tried Eric again. Nothing. Twitter loaded halfway, then froze on some video of a man running through a Walmart, screaming about biters. The comments were worse. "Stay off the roads, don't trust anyone who's bleeding. They're already here." Around noon, someone started banging on the front door downstairs, hard enough to shake the walls. I opened my door and peeked into the hallway. Moose was barking again, louder than before, and I could hear footsteps running up and down the stairs. When I looked down the hall, I saw Mrs. Wexler again. This time, she was hunched over, clutching her stomach, coughing so hard it sounded like something was tearing inside her. I watched her stagger toward her apartment, leaving a trail of red on the wall. I wanted to help, but my gut twisted. I closed my door and locked it, then grabbed a kitchen chair and shoved it under the knob, just in case. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my coffee cup. The mug shattered. I barely noticed. I kept looking out the peephole, breathing through my mouth to keep from smelling whatever was leaking from under Mrs. Wexler's door. That's when I realized nobody was coming to help. The news was looping the same alert, every channel, every station. My phone was useless. Sirens echoed outside, then died away. The military guys were still guarding the entrance, but now they looked panicked, talking into radios and waving their guns at anyone who got close. Eric finally texted me just one line. "Don't open the door for anyone. Not even me." I didn't reply. I couldn't. I sat on the floor with my back against the door, listening to Moose go quiet, then whimper, then nothing. I realized I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. I started locking everything. Windows, the bathroom door, even the closet. I shoved towels under the door gaps like I'd seen in disaster movies. After a while it was just me, the TV blaring that same warning and the thump of footsteps moving around the building, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. I started talking to myself, saying stupid things like, it's fine, it's just a drill, they'll fix it." But I knew it wasn't a drill. I kept thinking about Mrs. Wexler, about Eric's message, about that blood in the parking lot. I kept thinking about my mom and what I'd say if I could just hear her voice one more time. When it got dark, the power flickered and finally went out. The only light was the glow from my phone, useless and dying. I sat there, listening to the world fall apart, one cough, one scream, one locked door at a time. And I knew something was happening, something big, and there was no going back. That's how day one started for me, and by midnight I knew it was only going to get worse. I didn't sleep that night. Every time my eyes got heavy, some new noise snapped me awake. Scraping on the walls, muffled shouting, the whine of sirens in the distance. My phone was dead by morning, and the only light came from a thin stripe leaking in under my door. I thought about opening the blinds to see if the military van was still there, but I was too afraid. If I saw something worse, I'd never unsee it. My stomach ached. I realized I hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. I went to the kitchen, careful not to step on the broken mug. My hands shook as I opened a can of beans, ate them cold, and tried not to gag. I kept thinking about how the building felt like a tomb, quiet and sealed, the air heavy and thick, except for that ugly cough echoing up the stairwell every few minutes. At some point I heard someone moving around in the hallway. I pressed my ear to the door and tried not to breathe. Whoever it was, they weren't in a hurry. Shuffling footsteps, dragging like they were tired or drunk. They stopped in front of my door and scratched at it, softly at first, then harder. I was frozen. After a minute they moved on, but the scratching stuck in my head, itchy and relentless. I needed to know what was happening to everyone else. My instinct was to reach out, but the only way was in person. I opened the peephole and saw Eric's door. It was closed, but something dark was smeared around the handle, almost black in the hallway light. I tried to text him out of habit, remembered my dead phone, and cursed. I thought about shouting, but what if the wrong person heard me? I couldn't sit there any longer. I grabbed the heaviest thing I had, an old wooden baseball bat I'd kept from high school, and inched my door open. The hallway was empty, but the carpet was filthy, streaks of red and brown, like someone had dragged a mop dipped in blood. My heart hammered as I crept to Eric's door. I listened. Nothing but silence on the other side. I knocked, softly at first, then harder. "Eric! Man, it's me, Jake." No answer. My throat felt tight. I pressed my ear to the door and heard a sound I'll never forget. Something wet. A slurping, tearing noise, like someone eating with their mouth wide open. Then a voice, Eric's voice, mumbled, "Don't come in." I stepped back. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the bat. I couldn't move. I wanted to help, but everything in me screamed to run. I backed away, but the stairwell at the end of the hall was open, and that's when I saw my first real proof. Mrs. Wexler was there. hunched over a shape I couldn't recognize at first. Moose, the dog, limp and quiet. She was covered in blood, her mouth working at the fur like she was eating, chewing, swallowing. She looked up and her eyes were dead, milky, like she was already gone. Blood soaked her nightgown, her face, her hands. She just kept chewing, like I wasn't even there. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I backed away, ran back to my apartment, slammed the door, locked everything twice, pushed the couch in front of the door for good measure. My lungs burned and my legs shook, but I was alive. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. I lost track. The coughing, the moaning, the chewing sounds, all mixed into one nightmare symphony. The TV was dead. My phone was dead, but somewhere outside I heard gunshots, sharp and close. Then screams, more footsteps, banging on doors, someone yelling, "Let me in," again and again. Nobody answered. Someone banged on my door, hard. "Jake, open up, please, man, it's me." It was Eric. I recognized his voice, but something was off. Too slow, too broken. I put my ear to the door and heard him panting, scratching, begging. "Jake, I need help. I'm not right. Don't let me in, but don't leave me." I couldn't open the door. I just couldn't. I stood there pressed against it, whispering apologies until his voice faded away. Then, nothing. The silence hit me like a punch. I finally went to the window. The military van was gone, but now the parking lot was filled with abandoned cars, some with doors open, others still running, their headlights glowing in the daylight. I saw a man stagger past, clutching his stomach, blood pouring from a bite on his arm. He didn't look up. Behind him, 3 people moved together, twitchy, jerky, their clothes ripped and faces smeared with blood. They weren't running, they were hunting. That's when I realized there was no plan, no cavalry, no safe place. The lockdown wasn't to protect us. It was to keep whatever this was from getting out. And it was already too late. I started barricading everything. I dragged the mattress against the door, stacked chairs in front of the windows, taped up the peephole. I found every knife I owned and kept them close. I even filled the bathtub with water just in case. At some point, I heard a crash in the hallway, glass breaking, a woman screaming, then a wet, meaty thud. I stayed silent, tried not to breathe, tried not to think. My whole body shook. I looked at my reflection in the microwave and barely recognized myself. Wild-eyed, sweaty, pale. Then, a text alert blinked on my dead phone. Just one word, glowing in the darkness. Run. I don't know who sent it or how. I just know I listened. I grabbed my bag, opened the window, and stared down at the drop to the bushes below. I heard the moaning in the hall, the scratching, the feeding. I climbed out and jumped, landing hard, my ankle twisting. Pain shot up my leg, but I was free. I crawled through the bushes, heart thumping as the world around me fell apart. Sirens, screams, a sky choked with smoke. I limped down the alley, desperate for anywhere that wasn't home. As I looked back, I saw my building, my home, lit up with flashes, shadows in the windows, faces pressed against the glass. Some were screaming for help, some just stared, with empty eyes. That's when it hit me. The world I knew was gone, replaced by something hungry, broken, and desperate, and I was alone with no way back. Day 1 of the lockdown was over, and the real nightmare had just begun.